Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research, and I'm here at Black Hat 2025 in Las Vegas. I'm with Anand Srinivas, VP of Product and AI for 1Password.
Yep.
Anand, you and I have known each other a long time. You're relatively new in this role, though, and actually first time on ZKast. So a quick bio on yourself and what you do for 1Password.
Oh, for sure.
And who 1Password is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic to reconnect, Zeus. As you said, right? I mean, I've been in the computer networking industry. We started a company called Nyansa. We worked with you back then, right? I was at VMware working on edge computing. We interacted then as well. And here we are in the security space interacting. So it's fantastic. And just a bit of bio about myself. So before, I've been at 1Password for a couple of months. It feels like a couple of years. So it's things are moving really, really fast. Before this, I was at VMware. Before that, the network analytics startup. And in that sense, I've been in the machine learning space for probably about like 12 years now. But obviously, the ChatGPT moment in 2022 sort of changed everything. But all over the industry.
Now the name 1Password is pretty self-explanatory. But maybe for those who aren't familiar with it, what do you guys do?
For sure. So 1Password is a 20-year-old company, but also feels like a young company just the same. And obviously we made our bones with our consumer product, right? Which we have around like 170,000 customers of it. It's it's everyone I've talked to at least is like, we love the product, and I think there's good reason for that. It's a really easy to use product, and it's very, very secure, and we take that very seriously. But about 5 or 6 years ago, we also raised money from VCs. We raised a lot of money to sort of transition to not just being a consumer company, but an enterprise company as well. And so the first thing was our enterprise password manager product. And then going from that, sort of what we're doing and what we'll be announcing later on this year, and we've talked about it before in public, around our extended access management solution. So branching out in the access management space, and obviously, as I think we're going to talk about some more, what the implications of all that with AI is.
Well, let's talk about that. So I just attended a breakfast panel you guys did. Thank you very much for the breakfast. But the title was very ominous. It was Weaponized Autonomy, the rise of AI agents as enterprise threat vectors. That's kind of scary. But anyways.
We like to be dramatic.
Well, as I go around the show floor, right, it's, if there was a theme of Black Hat 2024, it was AI. Theme of Black Hat 2025, definitely agentic AI. Every event I go to, be it application vendor communications, they're talking about their agentic agents. And so we've all heard the good about what agentic agent does. It's going to complete tasks. What are some of the security risks that come into play here that maybe most people haven't thought about?
So I think just starting from the first principle of what's the difference with agentic AI versus traditional applications? Right? Because that's the starting step. I think most people from a security standpoint are simply doing whatever they did for traditional applications for agentic AI. But the big difference is these things are probabilistic. They're not deterministic. And they have, this thing we've heard sort of in the news of an alignment problem. As in, they can stay aligned for a little bit, but potentially they can go off the rails. So the bar for security and access management and controls over auditability, revocability, credential management, identity, all the rest, scoping, all the rest of it, right, is way higher for these versus traditional applications. And I would say that's, that's the biggest focus where it has to be. And obviously we're doing a lot in that space.
Now, one of the scary things I think was brought up in the panel where I think one of the speakers said from a recent survey you did, 54% of companies actually don't have visibility into what AI is being used, right? And so with that being said, how big a problem does that create? And by the way, I'm not surprised because we had shadow IT, we had shadow cloud usage. This is just shadow AI,
shadow
is it
AI,
not?
Exactly. Shadow agentic AI.
Yes.
Exactly. Shadow AI was so 2024. Come on, CS. But no, I mean, we look at it as a big opportunity, right? Because the high-level problem statement for us is how do we get enterprise IT and security comfortable with the deployment of agentic AI? How do we enable that? And so the big thing is, as you said, 54% of CISOs said, hey, wait a minute, we think agentic AI is going on and we have no idea. And like, they're like, what's happening?
And part of the challenge is, even if you didn't endorse the use of it, Zoom now has an agentic agent.
Exactly,
Teams has an right, Salesforce, and so even without officially authorizing it, but bringing that application in, you actually authorized it.
Exactly. Exactly. And and that's the thing. Agentic AI is taking different forms. It's taking the form of being part of a vendor's tool, like Zoom, like Notion, like all these different tools. But it's also taking the form of, okay, like a BDR agent, right? Accessing Salesforce and sort of summarizing, automatically like reaching out to leads, or an HR agent doing something, or a legal agent, right? All of these kind of use cases as well. And agents that are accessing multiple enterprise applications, accessing non-enterprise managed applications, and all the rest of it. And all of this has to be brought under a heel, right, for enterprise IT and security to feel comfortable, but also do so in a way that's easy to consume or easy to use. Otherwise, there's a lot of business value here. So people will find a way to circumvent.
Well, that's actually one of the things I like about what you guys do is you came from the consumer space. It is easy to use. Now, one of the questions actually brought up in the panel was around this concept of multi-agent processes, and I do believe all agents will be that. We were joking, sort of preparing for this, that MCP maybe is the USB-C of agentic AI. Is it? Or how big a problem is this, like, because the whole idea of agentic is it completes processes, but no enterprise process is built off one flow, right?
That's fair.
And so talk about the complexity of that and the hope that MCP brings, if it does.
For sure.
But there's no security really in MCP.
No, definitely. So look, I think it's a fantastic protocol. It's the step in the right direction in terms of making it super efficient for LLMs to interact with tools and resources versus writing custom API integrations every time you want to do something with a service, right? So in that way, it's really, really good. LLM can interact with natural language, automatically discover tools, access resources, sort of go back and forth in that process. It's a really good step in that direction. Now, whether everybody implements that, it's unclear, right? And what we see in the industry today is there's always a long tail, right? I think we talked about this a little bit. All of us would like to be passwordless. Hey, 1Password would like the world to be passwordless as well, right? That's why we sort of passkeys.
Then it'd be zero password.
Right? There you go. Then maybe we change the name at that point, right? But but there is a long tail. Similarly with solutions, I mean, everybody's favorite agentic AI example is, hey, book me a trip. Right, I like beaches. I like this. My budget is $1,000. I want to stay in North America. Go to it, right? Go, like figure it out and book it for me, right? But what's happening under the covers? It's accessing different airline websites.
Yeah, flights,
whatever,
hotels,
right?
restaurants, theme parks.
Exactly. Most of those are not supporting MCP. Let's just put it that way. And many of them don't even have good APIs, right? In that way. So what's happening is you have an agent driving a headless browser that's just clicking through the web and trying to log into these things, even potentially using usernames and passwords, right? Using usernames and passwords, trying to fill a credit card and all the rest of this, right? And so I think there will be this long tail of stuff that doesn't support MCP. There'll be a bunch of stuff that does support MCP. It's a step in the right direction, but as we know from all the industries, even computer networking, right? Like a Juniper switch and a Cisco switch, right? It took a while for them to interoperate, right?
Some things still don't work together.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's always the leading edge. And so, how can 1Password help customers with this agentic AI problem that clearly is coming? I think security operations can maybe fight the trend for a little bit, but it's good for workers. It lets us get things done quickly. And I've always said, if something's good for business, it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and this is going to happen. And so, how do you guys help customers actually make that happen so they're not putting their organizations at risk?
100%. And so, I mean, as a company, we sort of like pride ourselves as the company of yes, right? We want to enable security to happen. That's easy to use, right? And we're not a blocker, right? And so to that point, I think the key thing is realizing that trying to just apply access management and identity the way we did for traditional applications isn't good enough for AI because of the point that I made earlier about probabilistic and alignment over time, right? There's just a higher bar. And there's also this idea that agentic AI is a little bit like a user, it's also a little bit like an application. It sort of blurs the line in that way. So having a silo, for example, with something like secrets management, right? Today what happens with traditional applications, secrets management is completely separated, right, from a developer or an application operations team from the identity team or the workforce team, right? And With agentic AI, I don't think that's going to work, right? That's going to need to come together, right? Credential management, right? Just again for like the long tail, right? Today, that browser use style agentic AI that I was telling you about, the state of the art is either you have to pre-provide your credentials to this thing, to yet another third party, not great, right? That's a sprawl of credentials, or the thing stops and just waits for human input. And then that destroys the value proposition of automation, right? Which it was supposed to do, right? And so there's a lot of work to be done here, right? To sort of streamline this process, to make the initial identity and access management piece work properly, like scope it all and do that piece. But that's just one piece. Then there's the behavior analysis part, right? I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people sort of just running agentic AI on their system, and IT can't even tell whether it's the person or whether it's an
well, that's
agentic
probably
AI.
true, yeah.
Yeah, no, totally, right? And so how do you solve that problem? Maybe it's through an access management type thing, but it's probably through behavioral analysis, XDR type systems, right? They're probably the ones that are going to address that. So it's a big space. There's a lot of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, when markets change like this, there's a ton of opportunity for a lot of companies.
Okay, well, I always like to finish with a call to action. So security pros are going to come home from Black Hat, they're going to get back in their workplace, and they're going to go, holy cow, I've got all these agentic agents around.
Yeah.
I assume one of the things is you just figure out what's being used.
Yes.
But outside of that, just a couple of pieces of advice on how to think about the security problem.
Yeah. No, obviously with 1Password, credential management is sort of like the where we start, sort of everything.
What's a must-have now, right?
It's a must-have, exactly, right? So I think start thinking about where your credentials are stored, how it is. Is it integrated with your access management solution? What are agentic AIs in your environment doing? Are they accessing managed apps, unmanaged apps, right? How do you think about that? And sort of just get like an inventory, right? Start to figure out, okay, shadow agentic AI is tougher, right? But one needs to get sort of a handle.
Maybe you can use AI to figure out what AI is.
There you go, AI all the way down,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I would start there, and obviously like a selfish call to action is, if you're interested in sort of like exploring, solutions around this, we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, all right. So on behalf of Anand Srinivas from 1Password, I'm Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research, and thanks for watching. Really appreciate the time, and I really enjoyed the breakfast session as well. Give us a like, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time on my next episode of ZKast. Thanks, Anand.
Thanks.